Hi there, this is Solitude Ronin from Solitude Ronin Films, and welcome to another Top 10. Today I thought I would do an interactive Top 10. If you leave comments, I would like to see your Top 10s, because for this subject I've probably forgotten obvious choices. But this is 10 great films that were undeserving of a terrible remake. Now, there will be other films that should be on this list perhaps, but I've maybe never seen the remake or never had the will to see the remake. But again, I would quite like you to make your own lists down in the comments. And let's begin. Before we start, in actual fact, I think one of the things I dislike the most about remakes is that they become the default version of the film. So, for example, there'll be a number of times you'll look at the TV listings and you'll see the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3's on, and you go to watch it and it's John Travolta and Denzel Washington. Especially with older films, black and white films, the remake becomes the default, which is just wrong on every level. Never mind. Let's start with number 10. Robert Wise' The Haunting, which was remade, I can't even remember when. I'm not going to get into dates and specifics. This video is more just of a prompting for you out there to make your own suggestions. But whereas this was all about suggestion and sound design and skewed camera work, the Colour remake went for gore and cheap jump scares, and it's just terrible. And this beautiful little black and white film certainly didn't deserve that. Number 9 is Rollerball, which is a gritty, still kind of prescient film about society's lust for violence, society's lust for more violent and more bloody entertainment, and also the relationship with society and killing the planet and damaging the planet. And it features another great performance by James Caan as somebody trapped in the system. Great stunts. This Arrow edition has great making of documentaries, because they essentially got the best stuntmen in the world essentially to play the parts and play the game. But this was remade with LL Cool J. I can't even remember the male lead, but it was somebody suitably insipid and bland. The film was over polished, and strangely enough it just had no depth and no layers to it. This might not even appear on your top 10 just because the remake is just so instantly forgettable. I'm not even sure anybody saw it. But as usual, there's quite a lot of remakes. That's just like a surface remake of the film, and they just lose all the depth underneath. And Rollerball is a good example of that. Number 8 is one of my favourite films of all time, as if they're not all, and that's Vanishing Point. Vanishing Point, from a cynical point of view, would be Easy Rider but with a car, apart from the fact it's 1003 times better than Easy Rider. This was remade as a TV movie. I don't think it ever got a theatrical release, or it might have been a straight to video film, starring Viggo Mortensen, who obviously can act. But they just mess with the original so much. And again, it's not, they'll claim it's a reimagining or whatever, but it's just dreadful for a start. Kowalski in the 1971 film, there's no real explanation for why he does what he does, whereas the remake has to explain it. So there's a reason why he's wanting to drive so fast and without stopping to get to California. But more egregiously, the DJ in the remake is white, which takes away from Cleveland Little, takes away from the racial tension element in the original film, because they make the DJ white. And also, more egregiously, they change the ending, which is often one of the flaws of remakes. So stick to the original for this one, because it's fantastic. Number 7 is The Day the Earth Stood Still, with Michael Rennie, another Robert Wise film. Didn't realise there's actually 2 Robert Wise films in this. This, inexplicably, they waited 50 odd years to remake, with Keanu Reeves and Jennifer Connelly. I have to admit, I didn't even make it through all of the remake, because it was just lifeless, wooden, and just pointless, basically. The original still stands up today, and the way the world is going, we could actually do with Michael Rennie coming from space and telling us all to stop misbehaving. This is one of the more pointless remakes on the list, and well, they're all pointless, but just lifeless and bland. Number 6, Infernal Affairs. Now, I'm a member of a few Facebook groups, and there's actually people in these groups who believe, 1, that The Departed is a great film, and 2, The Departed is better than the first Infernal Affairs. Which, I mean, obviously each to their own, and we've all got different tastes, but that just gives me a headache. The Departed is, I mean, again, I don't want to focus on the negative, but you could do a top 10 worst films by directors who theoretically know what they're doing, and The Departed for me is Scorsese's low point. Granted, I haven't seen all of his works of this millennium. From the bad CGI blood, to again changing the ending, to the rat on the windowsill, as if we can't work out what's going on, to the dreadful accents, to just letting Jack Nicholson chew scenery like you wouldn't believe. I mean, Jack Nicholson in Departed makes Al Pacino in Devil's Advocate look like a subtle performance, and Mark Wahlberg is just ridiculous. But yeah, The Departed is just an unbelievably dumb remake of a really classy and intelligent original film, and The Departed is just the dumbed down version to the nth degree. But that's just my opinion. Don't offend anybody who are big Departed fans. Number 5, again, is a personal favourite. This is Bedazzled. This is the German Blu-ray, and this is Peter Cook and Dudley Moore having a blast. Peter Cook playing the devil and Dudley Moore playing the poor sod that keeps losing his soul to the devil. It's just tremendous fun. Yeah, it might have aged a little bit. The humour is maybe an acquired taste. But this was remade with Liz Hurley and Brendan Fraser, and it was absolutely dire. None of the kind of socio-political kind of comedy, none of the kind of a little bit nasty streak that goes through the original. Again, just bland and sanitised and a waste of your time. Number 4 is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Now, I kind of like Tim Burton. Some of his films are very good. I might actually do a top 5. I don't think I could actually do a top 10 of Tim Burton films, but I might do a top 5. And for me, Ed Wood is his greatest work. I mean, Ed Wood is a masterpiece. But he decided to remake Willy Wonka. The original with Gene Wilder's just fantastic performance. Not so benevolent Willy Wonka. He has a dark side, which is fantastic. And the remake, I mean, the remake has its moments. Johnny Depp playing another slightly mentally challenged person. But I don't know, the colour palette was just off a bit for me, and it just didn't have the kind of energy or pizzazz or life that this one has. So it's not an atrocious remake, but I would quite happily never see it again, ever. Number 3 is The Vanishing from 1988, directed by Georges Clooney, and the remake is from 1993, directed by George Clooney. Yep, he pretty much remade his own film with Jeff Bridges and Kiefer Sutherland, Nancy Travis and Sandra Bullock, and he changed the ending. Now, anybody who has seen this film and loves this film, because it is one of the greatest films ever made, and it has one of the greatest endings of all time, which I'm obviously not going to talk about. But for the Hollywood remake, he changed the ending, which is obviously a huge mistake, but that's Hollywood. Number 2, Assault on Precinct 13, John Carpenter's seminal early work. Granted, this is a riff on Rio Bravo, but it's done so well. Likeable characters, characters you root for, characters you believe in, and for not a lot of money, it's a great, tight little thriller with of his kind of socio-political commentary, a great score, and just a fantastic 70s film. It might end up in my top 10 quintessential 70s films, which I'll get around to at some point, honest. I keep saying that. This was remade with Ethan Hawke, who I like Ethan Hawke, Lawrence Fishburne, but they changed from a black cop and a white criminal. They changed it to a white cop and a black criminal. It just gets very silly. It's in the snow, and it's just pointless and dreadful, and not worth watching. But please change my mind, or try and change my mind. And the number one great film that is undeserving of a terrible remake is The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. I mean, this is, again, quintessential 70s film with Robert Shaw, Walter Matthau, Martin Balsam, Hector Alonso. That's not how you pronounce his name. And this is just fantastic. Again, has the best, one of the best endings of all time, and it's just fantastic. It's funny, it's suspenseful, it's one of those wee films that's just about perfect. And they remade this with John Travolta and Denzel Washington. Now, I have to say, give the remake credit, directed by Tony Scott, so the camera shakes a lot and things blow up, and it's Tony Scott. Credit the remake for not trying to recreate the ending of the original, because that just wouldn't work, and that's the only credit I give it. Because ask yourself two questions: who would you rather have, Robert Shaw in a film or John Travolta? Denzel Washington or Walter Matthau? And I guess how you answer those questions is maybe your opinion of which version of the film you'd prefer. The fact that they give Denzel Washington's character, they make him slightly shady because he might have been involved in a slightly dodgy deal, and it's just like, it's pointless. There's no reason to have him possibly being a bit dodgy. I mean, it's like, never mind. So that's my number one great film, undeserving of a terrible remake. Now, like I said at the start of the video, I've probably forgotten ones or missed ones. There are some honourable mentions, such as Yojimbo and Last Man Standing. What else did I have on my list? Bangkok Dangerous, which again was directed by the Pang brothers, the original and the Nicolas Cage remake, which I wasn't on the list because I've never actually seen. I can just imagine. So that's maybe not fair. Maybe that's absolutely fantastic. The Italian Job and The Italian Job. Yeah, like I said, I've probably forgotten ones, but again, I would love to see you guys' top 10s in the comments, or give me ones that I've completely forgotten about. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that wasn't too terrible, and I'm going to go now and watch all the originals one more time. So this is Solitary Ronin saying thank you very much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you again.